This is the story of a classic sniper who, despite being blindfolded, could take out targets from kilometers away. However, this sniper was once an ordinary math teacher who had a deep disdain for war and guns. But one day, an event occurred that changed everything, transforming him from a simple, decent teacher into a ruthless sniper. The story begins in a small village in Ukraine, where we are introduced to a modest house. Inside, there is a couple, Nikola and his wife Nastya, who are living a happy and peaceful life. Nastya was a talented artist, carving wooden statues of various kinds, while Nikola worked as a math teacher at a nearby school. He was a beloved teacher, adored by the children, except for one boy named Ivan. Ivan was a troublemaker from a wealthy family, and he would often tease Nikola about his appearance and clothes, trying to provoke him. Ivan wanted Nikola to lose his temper so he could complain and get him fired. But Nikola remained calm and unbothered. He lived a simple life, unaware of the chaos brewing around him, as his home didn't have any electronics like a TV to keep him informed about the world. One day, while Nikola was at school, he heard breaking news on the TV. Russia had invaded Ukraine. Thousands of soldiers had been killed, and many parts of Ukraine had been occupied by Russian forces. That evening, Nikola came home and received some good news. His wife, Nastya, was pregnant. He was overjoyed, knowing that he was about to become a father. The couple celebrated this new chapter in their lives. But the next day, Nikola's life would take a dramatic turn. He left for school, cycling along his usual route, but something seemed off. He saw two soldiers smoking cigarettes in odd uniforms. Definitely not Ukrainian military uniforms. Nikola didn't think much of it, assuming the government had changed the soldiers' attire. But when he arrived at school, he was shocked to find the entire school abandoned. There wasn't a single student in sight. Something was definitely wrong. He turned on the TV and learned that Russian soldiers had already entered Ukraine. Realizing that the soldiers he saw earlier were Russian, Nikola immediately feared for his wife, who was home alone. He rushed back home on his bike, but it was already too late. When Nikola arrived home, he found two Russian soldiers beating his wife, Nastya. He tried to intervene and save her, but the soldiers turned on him, beating him mercilessly as well. He begged them, "Please don't hurt her, she's pregnant," but his pleas were ignored. As they continued to beat both Nikola and his wife, one of the Russian soldiers searched their house. Finding nothing of value, he set it on fire in a fit of rage. Seeing their house burning, Nastya, in a fit of anger, picked up a stone and tried to fight back. In retaliation, one of the soldiers shot and killed her on the spot. Nikola watched in horror as his wife died in front of him. Overcome with grief, he held her lifeless body in his arms and cried uncontrollably. Hours passed, and two Ukrainian soldiers arrived at the scene. They were deeply sorry for Nikola's loss, and, seeing him so broken, they put a hand on his shoulder, offering comfort. The two soldiers then began to dig a grave for Nastya, allowing Nikola to bury her. Nikola was completely shattered by the death of his wife. He was left alone in the world, with nothing to live for. With his wife's death, Nikola was consumed by the desire for vengeance. The Russian soldiers not only took his wife from him, but also burned down his home and destroyed his future. He was now a man on fire with rage, determined to kill the Russian soldier who had shot his wife. His only path to revenge lay in joining the Ukrainian army. He went to the two Ukrainian soldiers who had helped him and asked, "Please, take me with you." "I want to join the army and fight for my country." They agreed, and Nikola was taken to a military base. Before leaving, he picked up a small statue that his wife had carved for him, a token of her love and protection. When they arrived at the base, the commanding officer was immediately skeptical of Nikola and his intentions. He suspected that Nikola might be a spy, and despite the two soldiers' insistence, the officer refused to allow him to join the army. However, Nikola explained the devastating loss he had suffered and how he had nothing left to live for. He convinced the officer that he was motivated by vengeance and that he was willing to fight and die to free Ukraine from the Russian invaders. The officer, moved by his words, allowed Nikola to join the army and begin his training. Nikola's training, however, was anything but easy. Having spent his entire life teaching math, he knew nothing about guns or warfare. When the soldiers were assembling weapons, Nikola was the slowest, struggling to put together even the simplest gun. His officer thought he would never make it as a soldier, but Nikola was determined. He focused all his energy on his training. At night, while the others slept, Nikola practiced on his own, trying to master the skills necessary to be a sniper. One night, during training, Nikola told his superior that he didn't want to be called by his real name anymore. He wanted to be known by the code name Raven. The others laughed at him, but the officer told him that a soldier had to earn a code name by performing a heroic feat for his country. Nikola took this challenge seriously, practicing harder and harder every day. Eventually, he proved his worth when he was able to assemble a weapon in just 18 seconds while blindfolded, showing everyone his incredible skill and focus. Nikola's performance impressed everyone, and he was accepted into sniper training. He was given an old model of a gun, while others received newer, more advanced weapons. Nikola demanded a modern gun, and the officer told him he had to prove himself. Nikola had no choice but to accept the old gun and continue with his training. As the training progressed, the officers tested the sniper's ability to hold their positions under pressure. They were each given a target and told not to move from their spot. Those who shifted even slightly were disqualified. When it was Nikola's turn, he didn't budge an inch, holding his focus and completing the task perfectly. His officer was impressed. The next challenge involved shooting a target without seeing it directly, using only the distance and estimation. While many failed, Nikola used his math skills to calculate the perfect shot. He was the only one who succeeded in completing the task. His officer, deeply impressed, gave him the codename Raven, and Nikola continued to train relentlessly, determined to become the best sniper the Ukrainian army had ever seen. Months passed, and Nikola's skills as a sniper grew sharper with every mission. He participated in several successful operations, earning a reputation as one of the finest snipers in the Ukrainian army. One day, Nikola's team was assigned a mission to eliminate Russian soldiers occupying a checkpoint. As they prepared to strike, Nikola noticed one of the soldiers, Ivan, the same troublemaking student who had once tormented him. Ivan, now a part of the Russian army, was stationed at the checkpoint. Nikola hesitated. He didn't want to kill his former student, but he knew that Ivan had become the enemy. When the order to shoot came, Nikola shot the mines near the soldiers, causing a huge explosion that killed Ivan and the other Russian soldiers. After the mission, Nikola felt a deep sense of loss, not because of Ivan's death.